So now you've heard a little bit of perspective what public transport is like in the UK, in London, or even in Dubai. But we want to stretch out this topic and also look at different countries. So the next panel will be on multimodal, seamless mobility in city, country, region. And the problem or the topic we'll be discussing is how do we actually bridge the gap between city center and the outskirts? What are the new trends emerging in different cities in Europe? And how can we actually make public transport successful on the long term? So today, starting today until tomorrow. I'll introduce my guests. Zeina, you can come back on the panel because we've already seen you, and the other ones would be Romain, Erny, who's from the Choose Paris region, Dr. Rolf Erfurt from Berlin's public transport provider BVG, and last but not least, Lasse Repsholt from Denmark, from the Danish passenger transport, which is like the BDO, just in Danish. That's how I got it. Okay, I sit here. Welcome. I give a quick introduction to each one. I give an introduction to you about Zeina because the audience probably already knows her. So Zeina is based in London. She's co-founder of Cities Forum, which is like a group of experts consulting governments and transport bodies on topics about mobility, especially smart city, autonomous vehicles, road safety, and public transportation in all its elements. So basically you do research and consultancy. That's how I understood it. Then we have Romain. It's very nice to have you here. You're leading the Paris region's International Attractiveness Agency, very long word, Choose Paris region. And I think Choose Paris region is the key argument you're having in your organization. You're promoting the region's influence on the international stage, and you support businesses who want to come to Paris and do something related to mobility. So you advise companies that look to expand in Paris, and you help them to set a foot on the ground. It's very good to have you here because in the past we've always been, when it comes to mobility transition, maybe like 5-10 years ago, Paris wasn't really on the radar. It's coming in an absolute crazy speed, so now it really is like the poster child in Europe when it comes to mobility transition. And yeah, happy to have you here. Rolf Erfurt, Dr. Rolf Erfurt, you've been Chief Operating Officer at BVG since October 2019. You began your professional career at consultant firms like Roland Berger, strategy consultants, always in the transportation division. And you used to work at Bombardier Transportation in different countries like India, North America, and other German railway companies like Nordwestbahn or Transdev in Hanover. Really happy also to have you here because, we're based in Berlin, things are changing, and we're happy to hear what's going on. Last but not least, Lasse Repsholt, you're from the Danish transport, Danish passenger transport, the industry body of the Danish operators, and so you're the Danish translation of the BDO, who's also hosting this conference. So that makes it easier for everyone to understand what it actually is about. We already heard in Zeina's presentation that obviously public transport is evolving, and maybe we shed a quick light on the cities where we're all from. So what's the current state of the public transport network, and how is it actually moving forward into the future? What can you say? Maybe we start with Romain. As I already teased, Paris is doing it probably the right way. So can you maybe explain very quickly what's so special about Paris right now?
Yeah, sure, Joanna. Thank you for having me on stage. So I work for the Paris region. So the Paris region, this is the city of Paris and 7 counties surrounding Paris, including, for instance, the business district of La Défense, the 2 main airports. So it's a 12 million inhabitants area, territory. And with the city of Paris, where we have the highest density of population, and 50% of the territory, the region, is rural area. So we have different use cases in terms of mobility. In France, we have 30% of the CO2 emission that are coming from transportation of goods and people. So we have to drastically reduce that. And the strategy behind that is to invest massively in mass transit. And I just wanted to highlight the Grand Paris Express, which will double the size of the metro lines in Paris by 2030. So we will have 200 kilometers of new metro in Paris, and 68 new train stations is ready to connect suburb to suburbs. Because now in Paris, when you want to go from, for instance, the east of the region to the south, you have to go inner Paris to commute. So it's ready to connect the a new ring metro road in the suburbs of Paris. And the second part is really to also encourage and electric mobility, and especially electric bus, because we hire at bus to bus. And in the Paris region, we have a fleet about more than 10,000 buses. And the goal is really to switch the whole fleet to approximately 1/3 of electric buses and 2/3 of biogas buses. So this is the goal is really to have clean bus in the city or in the urban area by 2025, and by 2030 for the whole region. So that gives you an idea of the investment for the public transit authority. And I just wanted to finish by cycling and walking, because active modes are really important for us. You have heard about what's happening in Paris with the new infrastructure, etc. But we need more, and we also need more parking spaces to develop the cycling and walking activities and mode in the Paris region.
And at your agency, Choose Paris Region, so do you experience like a growth in companies that actually want to come to Paris? Paris also being good in attracting startups, so maybe that all comes together.
Yeah, we have more and more interest from companies mainly from Europe actually, and a bit from the US, but really want to test innovative solution and test and implement and also do business in the mobility, even for the metro buses, also for electric vehicle, electric charging station, etc. I think we are renewing the ecosystem by international companies that want to do business in the Paris region. And what we offer, we are non-profit organization, so really we help them to understand the market and help them to set up by giving advice, or to create a subsidiary in France, and or to find the best talent in the Paris region to work on R&D project, etc. So all our services are what we can offer to international company. But we're seeing it's booming with the cycling, metro, buses. So it's a good period to be here.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Maybe we come to Berlin because we've heard Paris is having a similar goal as we in Berlin are when it comes to the electrification of the bus fleet. Berlin has the very ambitious goal to have all buses run on electricity by 2030. Based on our mobility law, which we have in Berlin, right? So how far along are you, and do you think you will actually make it to 2030, or will we add the German style a little bit of more time?
Good. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here. First of all, you asked a bit about the status of public transport. I can clearly say we're more than fully back on track. We have more passengers than the pre-pandemic time, and that's what we're really proud of. And thanks to all of you who probably traveled with BVG here to the fair, and all the other participants, and also the inhabitants and guests of the city. It's really important for us because we know from other operators around the globe facing challenges like being stuck with 40-45% of the pre-COVID level, and you're really in a vicious circle. So that's a positive thing. People in Berlin, they like BVG, they take it, and they enjoy public transport. So most of them, at least. That's a good sign. Though, second, on the electrification, since we're on the bus fair here today, it's a big challenge, and the law basically says that we need to be emission-free It doesn't say electric, so we're also looking at a bit of various angles at the moment, simply because we were also hit by some delays in the supply chain during the pandemic, Ukraine war, and so on and so forth. But what we really need is, always called the fast track to net zero. We need way more speed on all the approval and the financing process. And for me, money is not the limiting factor at the moment. We are stuck in all the administration, all the approval processes, and all the regulations we need to fulfill. And that's what's really hindering us, because first we need the infrastructure, and then we can buy the buses. And I know it's a bit disappointing for all the suppliers here to hear that first we need the infrastructure, but that's reality. And if we can, jointly come to a situation where we say, fast track on the approval track, fast track for all the things that pay into reducing CO2, I think then we would really make a big step forward.
Because Berlin never goes without any problems on political level, and because we have so many layers, that's what you said, everything's taking a little bit longer in the decision-making process on the political side. How close are you cooperating with the Senate, which you obviously have to? And I know that the bus speed in Berlin is I think almost 2 kilometers an hour slower than it's supposed to be, which comes to the problem that you need to send out more buses, more staff, which you don't have. So how are you actually arguing about this with the Berlin, city of Berlin and the Senate?
Of course, we're working closely together with the Senate, and just to put that into the right light, the topic of fast approval, it's not only a Berlin thing, I think it's at least a German thing, because there are many regulations that are not coming from the, let's say, Berlin federal level at this point in time. Regarding the average speed, yes, unfortunately, especially during the past years, we had a decreasing average speed, and now we're working very closely with the Senate. We get a lot of political backing at the moment for all our activities. That's really, really good. Since about the last year, we really feel political backing for all the activities of BVG. And yes, we are working closely on increasing speed, but it's a very tough thing. And I know I often talk to our Senator of Transport, and she would love to give us, more separate bus lanes, but there are certain regulations which hinder us, and which are, sorry to say, not on the Berlin level, but actually on the federal level. And Berlin proposed on the federal level to change the law to give really, priority for bus lanes, which we really need in this city. And unfortunately, it didn't come through on the federal level, on the German governmental level, which was disappointing in the Verkehrsminister conference, as we say in German. It was blocked, which is disappointing. But jointly we are pushing it again and again, because I think it's necessary to really give priority on our streets for public transport. Yeah.
I think we can all agree on this. Lasse, I come to you about Denmark. I think in Germany, well, Denmark is a neighboring country, but when we talk about public transportation and sustainable forms of mobility, the first city that pops into our minds is Copenhagen. So basically, Copenhagen is done, check. Now Paris is the next one in line to be the poster child. Yet, I know Denmark is not Copenhagen. You have also the issues in other cities on undercountry side that we have here, mainly that people still are preferring their car, individual transportation. So can you maybe elaborate on that? And what's the situation with buses in cities and also across region? I think it should be on. Yeah.
It's on.
Is it?
It's on? Yes, it's on. Well, true. Copenhagen is the younger brother in this company, and also kind of the country of milk and honey, because we should be able to do so. We have a rich government that can support, that we're able to support public transport throughout the COVID-19 crisis. There are infrastructure projects going on in Copenhagen. On metro, we'll be opening later this year, and a light rail system. So, and also, to put it briefly, the electrifications of the buses is also going quite well. We have almost 50% of the total, or this year we will reach almost 50% of the overall bus transport will be by electric buses. So all these things are working quite well. I think where I would disappoint you, so where you wouldn't be able to put your check mark is when we speak of the greater Copenhagen area, is to find the right mix and the strength between combining active mobility modes and the public transport, and getting those things put together to have a stronger and more persuasive alternative to the private car, which is still, despite of all this, a very attractive and used mode of transport in Copenhagen as well as in other cities. So I think if we have a lot of check marks in our book, our major challenge at this point is to combine bicycling, walking, and public transport, and put these together in a way that makes this mix more attractive than the car. And this goes for Copenhagen, it goes for Greater Copenhagen, including the suburbs especially, and also in some of the rich cities that you mentioned, that where you would also have the potential, I would say, to mix active transport with public transport to create a very sufficient and efficient and sustainable mode of way of transporting. So what's the missing ingredients? We don't know quite yet, but I think it's also a question of we use the carrot and the stick picture often in public transport, and probably it's a bit more a stick, I think, in many ways that we need. Yeah.
Reinvent the system. So how are you moving forward? What are you doing in Denmark in terms of digitalization, autonomous vehicles? Do they have ideas about how they can integrate that? Also maybe from a bus side, like shuttles, that's something. Yeah.
Well, actually the funny thing is that I think at many of the tools are on the table, and many of the new mobility services are known. And in my perspective, what we need the most is organizations or goals, common goals, that make us, that enable us to actually make use of these tools. Mm. So I think perhaps one reason why we're a bit late on this, or why we don't, why we miss the point, is that we're looking too much at the tools, at the technology is available, and we haven't been able to create the institutions and the common goals that make us prioritize them and use them in a creative manner. So more it's a question of institutions and organizations, because we have a very developed ticketing system, which was mentioned earlier in the discussion here, a journey planner, a common organization across all the PTAs with a shared system, both in terms of pricing and in terms of ticketing, across all the modes, rail and bus, and across all the country. So we should be able to do so, but we need a different organization of this of the industry.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, maybe Zeina, you're an expert on that. How can we have the tools? How do we can we bring them actually together in a way that benefits all, not only city residents, but also the ones that maybe live further outside? That's something you also probably mentioned in your keynote, and that was a part of your conclusion.
Okay. So I think can you hear me? I didn't mention congestion charging or road user charging or just payment, just pay to use the road, which I totally believe in. There should be no free road. And I'm sure Germany is familiar with the congestion charging or road user charging, and London definitely we're familiar with that. So with the when you charge people to drive, and then you can use that money to improve and to invest more in the public transportation. So that's another way to do it. So in London, I guess that even driving into the city, the center, is only people with a high income or people who can afford it do that. And with charging them, you're really not affecting their behavior much because they're still driving and they don't mind paying. But then you could be affecting people with lower income. So this can kind of create some social inequality. But yet still, it's one way to do it. It's just to kind of focus more on charging people to drive and use that money to invest in the improving the public transportation. So I would suggest that making driving more difficult and then improving the public transport while, as you mentioned, the active travel, which is something really good in the UK.
Yeah. It's because London started very early with the congestion charge, like way before it was even, I think, discussed.
Yeah, and then in parallel, because I did mention London and Dubai, so Dubai as well, they kind of, I don't know if I want to say they followed London example, but they did, because they also have the electronic toll collection, the open toll road, where it's the major road, which is Sheikh Zayed Road. They charge them to drive on the road, but then they provided a reliable and a good metro system, which is extremely affordable, which basically made people's life a bit easier. They just did it a little bit the other way around, so they started with the congestion charging first, and then they provided the metro later. Normally it should be the other way around, because when you charge people to use the road, then you need to give them alternatives. So it was just a couple of years later when Dubai Metro was built. But still, it is in a good place now.
Yeah. I know in Berlin this is also a topic that's on and off discussed, whether we should have this city maut, as we call it. Would you be in favor of that, or do you think it's not our main priority? And because you said money apparently is no problem for BVG at the moment. So
I think it's important to have a good offer, because you have, of course, certain people who just simply cannot afford a car. They have to take public transportation. Then you have a group they really want public transportation. They can afford a car. But they don't, for whatever reason, they don't even want to have one. So they are, fans of public transport. And then you have the class, who can easily afford to take a car, who could also probably easily afford a city tax, and who just say, no, I don't use public transport. It's sniffy, it's ugly, and it's not reliable, and all this sort of bullshit that comes up there. Because I think public transport is good. So I think with a good offer, we need to convince these people. Okay. We need to get these, the Porsche drivers, the Audi A7 drivers, all these folks. We need to get them into public transport, and they can easily afford a city tax. So I'm really questionable if that's the right incentive.
How do we get them into public transport? That's like coming back to the topic of the panel. We want to make public transport as attractive as it gets, to make it a real alternative to the individual car. I think at the moment it's functional, especially in Berlin. I think we have a very, very good transport system in terms of coming from A to B on a timely manner, but it's not comfortable. I do understand people, who say, I don't want to use it. It's dirty. It doesn't give me I'm sheltered in my car. So where do we get this little bit of the luxury item, if you want to call it, or the comfort? I think it's about comfort and convenience. How do we get there, and what plans does BVG have?
I think the big advantage of public transport is usually you know when you arrive.
Yeah.
If you take a car in Berlin, you don't know when you arrive.
And you don't know where to park.
That's a different thing, yeah. That's on top, but often it's hard to, especially in the mornings and evenings in the rush hours, to really estimate when you will arrive, because usually it takes 45 minutes, and there's a construction lane, then there's an accident, God knows what, and it takes you 1.5 hours. So that's one push towards public transport, and then it's obviously investment in frequency. In reliability. I mean, we are eagerly awaiting our new metro trains from Stadler to come this year or next year, and then really follow up 1,000 new metro cars to come to improve quality. We are got new buses now, and the next one all ready to come. We're expecting the trams, the new ones for Berlin, 125 new trams. The first one to arrive this summer, and then really to invest in our fleet. But I think we also need to consider combining the standard transport with some on-demand solutions to cover the last mile in the outskirts. I don't think within the city, but actually in the outskirts to say, okay, the last mile, we combine public transport and on-demand systems. And on the ticketing side, I think the 49 euro ticket was a good move to get people into public transport.
And I know BVG has Mova, which is like a more or less a shuttle service, driver-based though, not autonomous, that goes into the outskirts of Berlin in the east. This is a tool which is very convenient because it gets me across border outside the city ring, yeah? And I think these are the things where you really avoid people getting into the car and driving to the city center. Do you agree? And where do we go from there? Hamburg, who's not on the panel as a city, has Moja, which is an autonomous shuttle service, not yet, but it's getting there. It's a private-public partnership between Volkswagen and Hamburger Hochbahn. So I think, would this be an option for Berlin, or would this be not an option because you don't want to partner with external?
We just, you've probably all read in the press that we are closely cooperating also with Moja on one a test case. I think what we really need to be careful is, you mentioned earlier, we need bus lanes. We need to get quicker through the city. I don't need 30,000 additional shuttles here on top of the cars I already have.
Yeah, so first that's
really one thing we need to consider. This city is, we're almost 4 million inhabitants here, and 10, 20, 40, 50,000 shuttles will not help. We need, large vehicles. We need the metro. We need to invest in the metro. The metro carries every day, every year 500 million passengers. So that's the real backbone. So we need, large capacity. We need to invest in large capacity to really get to move people through the city. And then, of course, on top you can do autonomous shuttles and all these things. But and since we're on the bus fare here, we need large buses and hope that further down the road we will have at least semi-autonomous and maybe even autonomous buses to come that would really help us. The idea of coupling buses, having one this platooning which was developed on the truck industry side to say I have one bus in the front and during peak times I have a second and a third bus behind, going semi-autonomous in this case. That would really help us to reduce complexity in our fleet. I know it's a big challenge for the industry. I'm fully aware of this, but just from an operator's point of view, this would help us to reduce complexity. And on this topic, we're closely working with Munich, for example, to move forward to say I have one standard bus, and in peak times, I put a second, even a third behind, park them after peak times, and then move them into the fleet again. This would also help us and bring capacity.
Okay. And now we come to Paris, because Paris has a similar issue like Berlin. You have a lot of cars, but now some of them gone. How to manage that, and what advice can you give to decision makers maybe in Germany?
No, maybe just a quick comment on that. I fully agree with high capacity. We have different experimentation on autonomous shuttle, and we are even in the business district of La Défense, and the last one was in Saint-Quentin-Yvelines. It was even a commercial services. But the situation we see when we saw an improvement in technology, but I fully agree with Lasse. We need to focus on real use case rather than pushing technology on the street just to make it real. We need to really focus on use cases, and my opinion is maybe that autonomous shuttle are much more. Maybe some real use case on delivering goods in the city rather than traveling or traveling passengers. And we have some experimentation also in the south of the Paris region with delivering food and delivering goods with autonomous shuttle, which works much better than driving passengers. So, but again, maybe on semi-autonomous or fully autonomous large buses, we will see some others experimentation. But again, focusing a lot on technology is not maybe the point. Is really to find real use case that made sense and that not cannibalize also others bus line or metro line, because it makes no sense at the large scale. Yeah.
So, because you're an expert on smart cities, Zeina, sometimes smart cities, the smartest are the one that actually act the dumbest in the sense of using least technology but still fulfilling their needs. Do you agree? And in terms of like how do we move public transport forward, Cities Forum collects all the ideas, and what advice would you give, for example, to decision makers that want to take the next step in public transportation?
Yeah, I mean, you need to be innovative. And to be sustainable and innovative and creative, technology helps. But you can still do it in an affordable and in a way where you don't really need to use too many technologies. So just changing the behavior, finding a way, public acceptability, again, what they have done in Germany by doing the €9 per month, so that was very brilliant. And you didn't need a lot of technology to do that. You just needed a good pricing strategy. Somebody maybe with an MBA maybe. So a good strategy, a way of basically making it difficult, maybe making the parking within the center very difficult for people to drive into the center. So there are a lot of ways. Again, enforcement. I think enforcement is one of the best ways. And also trust. I noticed that there's no touch in, touch out in Berlin. You just have the ticket, and then if you get caught, you pay a fee, right?
Yeah.
But then nobody's checking in and out, so you can go in and out, and if you're unlucky, I guess. But then this is done because clearly, I mean, I'm assuming you don't lose a lot of income because people work with integrity. So when the government behaves in a way that they trust their citizens, then you get this trust back from the citizens to the government.
Yeah.
We don't have that in the UK.
Yeah, but that's because you started with a closed system from an early age, and there are actually studies that say, okay, people avoiding buying tickets doesn't really matter whether you have a closed system or an open one. It's more or less actually the same if you look at the statistics. That's what I found quite interesting, that because in the end it works out cheaper, I guess, for the operators with an open system as there's less maintenance and technology. Do you agree, or would like to have a closed system or a smarter ticketing solution for Berlin? We don't need it now, really, with the Deutschland ticket.
Yeah, I think the Deutschland ticket, the €49 ticket, or even in Berlin now, the €29 ticket is one part of the answer. Second, I mean, we have, especially on the metro side, we have so many stations which are historic sites, or characterized as historic sites, and we're already struggling enough with, the main construction work I need to do. So implementing fare gates in these, so-called historic train stations, falling under special, historic in German Denkmalschutz regulations would be quite a challenge. So it's okay. I mean, there are always smarter ways. We're also experimenting on check-in, check-out systems. But the second thing is, increase the control rate. If people get a bit more they are more cautious about buying the ticket.
I have one more question, maybe, sorry, for BVG, because I think more people would actually use public transport if the quality at stations was improved. And I think the same applies also to Paris. The same applies to London. Well, Copenhagen is fine. I don't know about the rest of Denmark, but I generally feel it's about I enter public transport at a station, and if it's really bad looking and smelling, I don't want to go there.
That's actually a big I'm not saying challenge, I'm saying it's really a problem. On one main line, the U8, we're doing an experiment at the moment for over 3 months. We're doing 24 hours cleaning on, I think it's 7 stations. And that's the worst line we have in terms of, drug selling and all these sort of things. It costs us €700,000
per
for the 3 months.
Oh, for 3 months.
Just for 3 months to have cleaning 24 hours on 7 stations, and there's one cleaner, and the cleaner is not alone. There are 2 security guards, accompanying the cleaner. I mean, this is horrible. We cannot just simply leave a cleaner alone because there are too many attacks on staff, and that's a problem. We are addressing a BVG, but we are not alone in this city. We need police. We need the civil organizations to support us. And I mean, the problem of homeless people is not solved if we throw them out of the station and they are in front of the station. That's not the solution. And that's where we are working closely with the city together to find alternatives. For example, for homeless people in this case.
Yeah. Maybe, Lasse, you want to...
Yeah, I have a little to add on that. The Deutschland ticket is followed, and we're looking at it from all over what is coming out of it. It's very controversial, as we learned politically, as we learned earlier. And I have a great sympathy for the idea that the transparency and the affordability about the Deutschland ticket, but as a professional, I also have my worries about it. So I think we should focus, speaking of how to get the car owners to shift to the public transport. For most people, it's primarily a question of speed and reliability. And then, of course, price is important. But the price point has to be adjusted. So you have to find the right price point, and perhaps with social concerns as well, so students and elderly people can travel earlier. But I'm more in favor of a transparent price system, which is simple, but not necessarily, underpriced. And what does underpriced mean? That's very difficult to say. So I think it's very difficult to find the right price point, price-quality ratio. And I have a little, just a short anecdote about this, because our Minister for the Transport, he came to say that we shouldn't, speaking of lowering prices in the public transport system, he said, well, we should mind not attracting the wrong passengers in the buses. And everybody was asking, what do you mean about wrong passengers? Oh, that would be the ones who are currently walking or bicycling for their daily trip, and that would be unfortunate if they started going by bus. And everybody thought, but of course people should be able to either travel by bus or bicycle or whatever they want. So it was a bit frowned upon, a bit laughed upon, but he was actually grabbing a quite serious dilemma in speaking of prices and quality. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we already run out of time. I think we can all agree that, we are, if you look at it closely, on a good path to actually shape public transport for the future. Still not there, and I think the main issue, unfortunately, remains the car ownership in cities. That's something we need to tackle, and that we will also discuss probably among each other in some panels tomorrow. So thank you all for your time. I hope you have a good day, afternoon, and we see each other around. Thanks for coming to Berlin.